I'm Larry Farber, and let's queer up trans rights. Indiana blocks gender marker updates on IDs. Indiana has banned transgender residents from correcting the gender markers on their driver's licenses. Advocate reports that the Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles quietly added a notice to its website on Monday, stating it will no longer allow gender changes on state credentials, even with legal or medical documentation. The update reads, quote, "Gender change rule update. Effective February 12, 2026, the BMV will no longer provide customers with the option to change their gender on their Indiana credential by using a court-ordered gender change or physician statement per amended Rule 140, Indiana Administrative Code Section 7113, end quote. Indiana has enacted several policies affecting transgender residents in recent years. In 2025, Governor Mike Braun signed an executive order halting gender marker updates on birth certificates, which the ACLU challenged in court. Earlier actions ended the X-gender marker option and restricted gender-affirming care for minors. The Movement Advancement Project says only Texas, Tennessee, and Florida have fully prohibited gender marker updates on state IDs, but now they have to add Indiana to the list. Indiana Youth Group condemned the move. Well, it's just another move in the wrong direction. I think, we need to fight the fight, continue to let our thoughts be known during elections, and certainly.
I was talking to my production partner and best friend and sister, legendary Miss Candace King. We were talking about this very subject today. I mean, how can we not? And we were just saying it's really just another way to distract people from the real issues out there, like the cost of living and the corruption of the right. In time, the future, this period in American history will look back with disgrace.
I mean, I can't agree more. I also just, if the state is going right against the court order, then why don't we all just stop abiding the law? I mean, at this point, it's lawless. I mean, we've got states, refusing to adhere to court orders. We have the president refusing to abide by court orders. So, I mean, honestly, you're right. This is just another deflection.
It's just a way to distract
a distraction
from the real issues that are going on.
Right.
Spaghetti sauce is $9 now. Like, I cannot buy spaghetti sauce. I can't afford it. And the corporations that are doing this are just greedier and greedier and greedier, and they don't care.
Agreed.
And they just want one day for people to be rich or poor.
Well, I just want to say, first off, Daniken should probably join me as a card-carrying member of DSA with loving all the understanding of how the far right uses discrimination against queer people and black people and women as a way to get around the economic injustice in our society. That's a huge issue. The other thing you're talking about, Rex, unfortunately, yes, the rule of law has turned into a myth at this point.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely balls crazy silly what this is happening. And it's a mix of both the far right doing this to us, but also the judicial system has really failed on so many levels on this, on dealing with...
Absolutely.
We love throwing people. America loves to throw people in prison, and for some reason, we're not throwing these people that are just openly defying the courts all the time.
And while not being able to get your gender markers also creates a whole thing of havoc, and people showing up presenting female and it says male on there, or vice versa, and they're getting double looked at, and they're like, oh, this is a fake ID. There's so many other things that the slippery slope we have talked about. This is just opens up. It doesn't open a small door. It doesn't open up a floodgate. It literally pushes the wall down for craziness. But I really need to, people to really look at the fact that you now have government agencies ignoring court orders and rule of law. That is, I think, even more troubling than anything, because, like we just said, there is no more rule of law. So where does that stop? Where do we turn?
It's very, very scary.
That is the scariest thing to me.
Yeah, and gay men went through this decades ago to fight, and this is where we are now as trans, so we need all the allies we can get, and we definitely need our gay brothers. And nobody has to understand anything 100,000%. Just be a human and have some humanity. And listen, I've never met a trans girl I didn't like. Okay. Sweet, humble, artistic, lovely, kind, always helping. I mean, come on, what are people so scared of? Like, just to get to know us a little bit.
Right. Well, and like I said, this is again, I hate to say this, but this is a slippery slope. We're talking about the 1% of the population that's getting demonized and demoralized, but where does it stop? Women, unfortunately, or men who we get married and we change our name, and then we get divorced and we can't change our name back. Like there's so many things that this is going to set precedents for.
Right.
Yes.
Well, think for a second. We've just seen data as Daniken. This fiberglass mannequin has shown more humanity
Yes.
than the average Republican. Let's just let that sink in for a second.
Yes.
Well, and on a lighter note, I'm glad that Indiana was not on my bucket list of destinations I wanted to travel to anytime soon, and I don't think in the future either.
Yeah.
It's not really calling me. So
we have to take our LGBT dollars and let the country and the world see
Absolutely.
where we spend.
Absolutely. And I feel like I say this every time when I'm at the table, but when we talk about these horrible policies and, the lawlessness that we see from the other side of the aisle, I don't want to say that it's all Republicans. I don't want to say that it's all of every group. I don't want to make super generalizations, but if you're a MAGA person, I feel as though it is really the cruelty is the point. And it's cruel to deny people their gender markers. It sounds like a small thing, but it's not, because if you get pulled over by the police, like Rex was saying, if you get pulled over by the police, or if for a simple something where you need to show your identification and it doesn't match up with how you're presenting yourself, that's when you open yourself to violence. You open yourself up to more scrutiny. People think that your ID is fake. There is just, and that's what they want. The cruelty is the point. They want to embarrass
it's
people.
bullying. It's like back to high school.
Yes,
it's back to the, but I want to say something to all my young LGBTQ plus and my trans sisters and brothers. You're magical. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you, no matter what anyone says. Find your tribe and hang tight. Help is on the way.
Preach, Daniken, preach.
Yes.
And with that, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.